What kind of stories help you fall asleep best? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy these quiet nights, subscribe for more. Now, let your thoughts settle, and we'll begin. It started with music. Not loud, not intrusive. Just the kind that floated through the ceiling like warm light through a thin curtain. Piano, mostly. Sometimes a soft voice, but never clear enough to understand the lyrics. It came from the apartment above mine, 6B. I had never seen who lived there. No one passed in the hall, no deliveries, no shoes left outside the door. But the music came like clockwork. Every night, at exactly 8 in the evening, it would last no more than an hour. Then it would stop, as cleanly as it had begun. No fade, no stumble, just silence, like someone had gently closed a book. I never minded it. In fact, it became something I leaned into, a marker that the day was slowing down, a signal to put the phone away, to drink something warm, to sit a little more still. Sometimes I lay on the floor just to feel it more closely. Not the sound, the presence, the soft weight of knowing someone else was there, nearby, sharing time without needing to share words. The music changed often. One week it was classical, delicate pieces I couldn't name, but recognized from old films. Another week it was ambient tones that seemed to stretch without rhythm, like wind held in a glass. Once it was jazz, just once. And I remember that because it made me smile. It made the ceiling feel more human. Not perfect, not distant, just lived in. Whoever they were, they never played the same piece twice. That was how I knew it wasn't a playlist. It was someone choosing, someone curating, a living presence. I thought about writing a note once, just to say thank you, just to let them know it mattered. But I didn't. Somehow, the silence between us felt important, pure. And so I listened, night after night, not trying to solve the mystery, not even wondering much anymore. I simply let the music hold its space, until the night it didn't come. That night, I noticed the silence, before I noticed the time. It wasn't sharp, just different. The kind of quiet that feels like something was just said and you missed it. I looked at the clock, 8 hours and 2 minutes in the evening. I waited. Maybe they were late. Maybe the needle slipped, or the power flickered, or they were out just for a night. I stayed by the table, half tilted toward the ceiling, like sound could return faster if I was ready for it. But nothing came. No piano, no voice, just the hum of the building, the sound of a fridge 2 floors down, the soft sigh of my own breath. I didn't worry. Not yet. It was only one night. People break patterns. Maybe they needed silence. Maybe it wasn't about me at all. But the next night, the silence returned. And the night after that, no faint tones, no vibration of keys through the plaster, nothing. I tried not to reach for meaning. I told myself not to imagine. But there was something unsettling in the gap, not loud, not dramatic, just hollow. The kind of absence that only matters when something has made space in your life, without asking. On the 4th night, I stood in the hallway longer than I needed to, just outside my door, pretending to check my phone, listening. but the hallway offered no clues. 6B's door looked exactly as it always had. No notes, no movement, not even a change in smell, still faintly lavender, something soft and not quite floral. I went back inside and sat in the dark. I didn't turn on the lamp. I didn't light a candle. I just let the room hold its shape, wondering if they were up there. Sitting in the quiet, too, wondering if anyone noticed. I realized how much I had come to rely on the music, not just as sound, but as anchor. It had framed my evenings, held the day's weight gently, like a hand smoothing a wrinkled page. And now, without it, the hours felt loose, unnamed. I didn't miss the music. I missed the presence. The sense that someone, somewhere above me, was holding time gently in their own way. I whispered once, softly, toward the ceiling, not a call, not a question, just, "Are you still there?" And in the stillness that followed, I felt something that wasn't quite an answer, but it wasn't nothing either. It was a Tuesday when I noticed it, not the sound, but the shift. A detail so small I might have missed it if I hadn't been looking at the floor above mine out of habit. I was returning home just after dusk, keys still in hand, when I passed under the staircase that led to the 6th floor, and I paused. Something on the step, not trash, not random, folded, intentional. A piece of paper, square and creased, like someone had placed it there for someone specific. I bent down and turned it over, blank on the outside. I hesitated, it could have been anyone's. But something about it felt quiet, personal, but not private. Like it was waiting to be found, not hidden. I opened it slowly. Inside, written in small, careful letters. Not gone, just listening. No name, no explanation. That was all. I read it again and again. The hallway around me stayed still, not empty, but hushed, as if holding space for that small message to settle. I didn't take the note with me. I folded it back the way it was and placed it gently on the step where I'd found it. Then I climbed the stairs to my floor, not looking up this time, not rushing. That night, I sat on the floor again. Not to wait for the music, I already knew it wouldn't come, but just to be near the space where presence had once passed through the walls like warmth. I whispered the words once, the ones from the note. Not gone, just listening. And somehow, that made the silence feel less empty, more like breath, more like someone was still up there, just choosing a different kind of presence now. Maybe the music had never been about sound. Maybe it was always about connection, about two people sharing an hour of space without names, without introductions. I left my window open that night, just slightly, not for air, but in case something wanted to pass through. The next evening, I climbed the stairs to the 6th floor for the first time. Not out of urgency, more like a quiet gravity. Something guiding me, not pulling. The hallway was exactly as I imagined it. Plain, clean, unremarkable. Apartment 6B looked no different up close than it did from below. A muted blue door, a small brass number, and the faintest scent of something herbal lingering nearby, like dried sage or warm tea. I didn't knock. I didn't plan to. But I stood there for a while, listening not for music, just for anything. I held a folded note in my pocket, just like the one I had found days before. I had written it carefully, not quickly. Just one line. Me too. I hadn't signed it. I hadn't tried to explain. There was nothing to explain. I bent down and slid the note gently under the door, slow and without sound. I didn't expect it to be read. I didn't need it to be. What mattered was the act, a moment of shared stillness, becoming something real. That night, I didn't sit by the window. I didn't lean into the ceiling. I just let the evening pass without watching it too closely, like letting go of a balloon but keeping your hand lifted, feeling the weightless thread drift away. 2 nights passed with nothing, no note, no sound, no music. But on the 3rd evening, when I returned home and passed by my door, I saw something unusual. A shadow under the frame. Thin, rectangular. I unlocked the door, heart quiet but aware, and found a single sheet of paper resting on the floor inside. Someone had slipped it under while I was out. I picked it up slowly. One sentence, written in the same steady hand as before. You're not alone in the quiet. That was it. No more. But it landed deeper than anything loud ever could. I sat down, paper still in my hand, and felt something settle inside me. Not closure, not certainty, just presence. I lit a small candle and placed it near the center of the room, not for light, but for warmth. And as it flickered, I whispered maybe to the ceiling, maybe to the walls, maybe to myself, thank you for hearing me. The hallway felt different after that. Not louder, not brighter, just more alive. I started noticing details I hadn't seen before. A small sticker on the baseboard outside 6C that read, "Slow down, barely visible unless you crouched." A paper crane taped beneath the fire alarm, so small it almost blended with the red plastic. They hadn't been there before. Or maybe they had, and I simply hadn't been tuned to that frequency. One morning, in the laundry room, someone had written something in dry erase marker on the metal door of a dryer. It wasn't a complaint or a name, just 3 words. Still here, softly. I stood there, staring at it far longer than I needed to. I didn't know who had written it. Maybe it had nothing to do with 6B. Maybe the world had always been full of quiet messages, and I was only now learning how to see them. That evening, when I returned home, I passed by 6B again. Still no sound. But there was a note not for me, not tucked under my door this time. This one was taped gently to the center of 6B's own door. Just a sheet of paper, handwritten in a different style than the one I'd come to recognize. Thank you for the music. I didn't stop walking. I didn't want to intrude, but I felt it, the ripple. Someone else had heard it too. Someone else had noticed. And maybe someone else had needed it just as much. I sat on my floor that night in the dark, as I had so many times before, and realized something I hadn't named until now. That what had felt like a secret, soft connection between 2 people had slowly become something larger. Not public, but shared. Like when a song leaks through headphones and, for a few steps, the person walking beside you hears it too. I lit my candle again. But this time, I placed a second one beside it. Unlit, not symbolic, just present, like leaving an open chair at the table, not asking anyone to sit, just letting them know they could. And as the flame moved in that small, quiet room, I imagined the floors above and below me full of soft moments like this one. Not loud, not even spoken. Just people pausing. Just people hearing. Just people still here softly. It began simply. I started carrying a small notepad in my coat pocket, not to journal, not to plan, just to hold thoughts that weren't ready to be spoken out loud. Phrases that came to me while walking, or while waiting for water to boil. Quiet things, unfinished things. One morning, I tore out a page and wrote, "You don't need to be seen to be felt." I folded it twice and slipped it behind a loose brick in the stairwell. I didn't think about who might find it. I didn't write it for anyone specific. It just felt right to leave it somewhere. The next day, I left another on the windowsill of the mailroom. This one said, "You are allowed to arrive slowly." That night, I lit the single candle again, not out of routine, but with intention. I didn't sit by the ceiling. I didn't wait for music. I just let the room be full of everything unspoken. There was peace in that. Later that week, I found a note that wasn't mine, folded and taped gently to the back of the elevator button panel. If you're holding too much, set some of it down here. No name, no decoration, but someone had left a stone beneath it. Smooth, warm-colored, resting neatly like a paperweight that didn't belong to paper. I smiled without meaning to. The building had become something else now. Not just rooms and walls and stairs, but a soft system of presence, of reminders. Not intrusive, not demanding, just small, steady signals that someone else was here. Someone else was awake. I wondered if it had always been this way, and I was only just joining the current, or if the silence that had once existed above me had rippled outward and taught others, as it had taught me, to listen differently. I started thinking of these exchanges as music, too, not with notes, but with rhythm, with breath, with pause. One evening, I passed 6B and paused. Nothing had changed on the door. No new notes, no sound, but I closed my eyes for just a moment and imagined someone still inside, maybe not playing, maybe not listening, just being. That was enough. That had always been enough. I left one last note at the base of their door that night. It said, "You taught me how to sit still. Thank you." And then I walked downstairs, past the candle, past the soft silence, and felt lighter, not because I had let something go, but because something had stayed. I met her on a Sunday morning. The building was unusually quiet, even for that hour. I was heading down to check the mailbox, not out of necessity, but out of rhythm. And she was already there, kneeling near the radiator where someone had begun leaving folded notes, weighted by tiny, round stones. She didn't look surprised to see me. In fact, she looked like she'd been waiting, not for me specifically, but for someone like me. "Do you ever leave them?" she asked, fingers lightly resting on a folded square. Her voice was low, warm, with the calm cadence of someone who knew the value of a pause. I nodded, not quickly, just enough. Sometimes, I said. She smiled then, not big, not performative. Just the kind of smile that folds around a room gently, like a blanket settling onto tired shoulders. I thought so, she said. You write like someone who listens first. We didn't exchange names. It didn't feel necessary. Instead, we talked quietly, still near the radiator, as though raising our voices might break something. She had lived in the building for years, in a unit tucked behind the stairwell, the kind you'd never notice unless you knew to look for it. She hadn't known who lived in 6B either, but she remembered the music. It felt like someone watering the air, she said, and I nodded again, because I had no better way to describe it. She told me that after it stopped, she began writing little reminders to herself, then leaving them around the building. Not to get attention, just to keep a thread going. I didn't know if anyone read them, she said, but I wanted the silence to keep breathing. That phrase stayed with me, to keep the silence breathing. It felt like something I'd been trying to do, not filling the quiet, not erasing it, but offering it company. We talked a little more. Not about the past, not about who was gone or who had stayed, just about how soft things can last longer than loud ones, if you let them. Before we parted, she took one of the stones from the floor, pressed it into my palm, and said simply, "For your window." Then she turned and left, just like that. That night, I placed the stone on the sill beside the candle. I didn't light it. I didn't need to. The weight of the stone was enough, not heavy, just present, just real. Spring came quietly, as it often does in this city, not with blossoms or sudden warmth, but in the way the light lingered longer on walls that used to hold shadows. I had begun writing less and leaving more. Notes, yes, but also pauses. I held elevators longer for neighbors. Let the kettle sing a little longer in the morning. Opened my curtains even when the sun was too strong. Small things, slow things, and they began to echo. One evening, near the stairwell, I found a drawing, not a note this time. Just a simple ink sketch of a candle, with a tiny flame drawn as a spiral. Below it, "Still here." It didn't feel like a message just for me. It felt like the silence itself was writing back now, a language made up of observation, rhythm, care. And I knew then that what had started in the apartment above me had never really ended. It had only changed rooms, changed shapes. One night, I returned home later than usual. The hallway was darker than I expected, one of the lights flickering faintly overhead. I climbed the stairs slower than usual, and when I passed 6B, I paused. There was something tucked beneath the door. Not a note, a small envelope. It wasn't addressed. I knelt and slid it out, unsure but open. Inside, a single phrase, "Whatever you kept alive, keep passing it on." I didn't recognize the handwriting. It didn't matter. I held the words carefully, like they might dissolve if I gripped too tight. Then I walked up one more floor to the rooftop door. It was locked, as always, but I stood there for a long time anyway. That night, I began leaving notes outside the building, on benches, on bike racks, in the seams of the bookstore's front door. Not signed, not explained. Just lines like, "You are already enough. Someone felt your absence today. It's okay to slow down. I never waited to see if they were found. That was never the point. I had once sat in a room and listened to music that came through the ceiling, not meant for me, but still mine. And now, maybe someone would find a sentence that wasn't for them and still carry it like a soft light. The candle stayed on my windowsill. The stone stayed beside it. Not every night, just when it felt right. And sometimes, when I sat beside it with the window open, I could swear I heard something very faint. Not music, not exactly, but something with rhythm, a presence, like breath. And in those moments, I'd smile gently to no one and think, still here, still listening.